The initial phone call script. So this is the next step on the checklist. And basically this just gives you a quick outline of what you're going to talk to the client about as you initially call them to set up the site visit. Okay, so what I like to do is have my script out, and I like to have my cover page for the checklist out. So what I'm doing is I'm using the script to answer all of these questions, okay? And just use your script and then use your checklist, and as long as at the end of the phone conversation you have all this information and you have a date and time to show up, you're in great shape. So this is, once again, pretty self-explanatory. The client's name, you can be filling that in on your checklist. Is it a purchase or a refi? As you can see, some of those things that are in the script are already on this checklist. So once you get familiar with this process, most of the time you don't even really use the script anymore because it's so second nature. You're just going through the checklist. You're kind of rattling off some questions, getting some basic information so you can help the client. We've got several recorded initial phone call scripts for you. Listen to those. They're great. They're actual live conversations with real customers, and you're going to see how we, politely get all this information. We ask some questions. We try to answer some questions and get them comfortable with us coming out and doing their site visit for them. Okay, we talked about verifying the type of loan. It's also on the checklist. We talked about the purchase price. Do they have an accepted offer? If they're buying the house. We talked about the maximum not to exceed loan amount, which gives us the numbers here as far as the price and the amount of the reno budget. So a lot of this phone script is bouncing back and forth between the cover page and the script, and we provide this for you just so that you kind of get a flow of how things are going to go, some of the stuff that you're going to want to know from the client, and it's very conversationally. It's not like, let me get my checklist out and go over it. Like say, let's ask you a few questions, let's gather some data, let's make sure we're all on the same page. This is where we also find out if they need a home inspection. As we talked about earlier, you can double dip these jobs so you can get paid twice showing up to the same job site. We talked about getting access, making sure that we can get into the house. Do they have a contractor? We already talked about that. And then do they have a copy of a bid or an estimate? And then if they do, we're going to want to request a copy of that. Do they have any drawings? Basically, we're trying to gather as much information about the project as we can before we show up. If we have a bunch of information, we show up, it just makes our job easier. Then I also like to ask, do you have a wish list? Do you have a must-do list? Is the roof leaking? What's going on? So this gives you kind of a feel for what the client wants. Okay, and that's when I use the notes section here, fill in the blanks a little bit. Hey, they want a bathroom, they need a roof, the well doesn't work. Just gives you some basic stuff that you want to coach them through as far as getting their bid. I also like to explain our role as the consultant. What are we doing? I like to explain it so that they know we're the bank's eyes and ears. We're going to go check out the job. We're trying to paint the picture of what is going to be there when it's all said and done so that the lender knows exactly what they're loaning the money on. And then also, so when we do draw inspections, that we know what's done, what money is associated with what line item so the contractor can get paid properly. And you'll hear that on the phone calls, how we kind of get this information. We just want to make them feel at ease that they know what we do. We're not the appraiser, we're not the lender, we're not the realtor, we are their consultant. So we're coming out there on their behalf and the bank's behalf to help them get this project moving in the right direction. And then we schedule the date and time. We showed you that on the checklist, pretty self-explanatory. And then I also like to explain that we collect our fee up front, and that we're going to get them an agreement and an invoice. I like to tell them, hey, if you want that money back, your lender can roll that into the deal. If you don't want the money back, no problem. Your lender doesn't have to roll in the deal. But I like to explain to them, look, you're going to get a bill and a contract from us. We need that back in order for us to show up. And then we kind of go over the other fees, mileage. It's your upfront fee plus mileage. It's all going to be in their contract and their fee agreement. But I like to get that out of the way so they don't think we're showing up for free or it's all built into their loan, because some of the lenders might say, well, we'll roll all the fees in. Well, they can do that, but they get reimbursed at closing. So we don't let them roll in our initial fee, because if the deal never closes, the fee never comes and we work for free, so we never do that. We always collect our fee up front, we get our contract up front, and then we let the bank reimburse the client if they want that money back. We also talk about who needs to be at the initial site. We basically want one of the parties who, whether it's the husband, the wife, the dad, the mom, whatever, somebody that knows what the heck is going on, who has talked to the contractor and has a good understanding of what they want done to that project. If you can't get the client there, you can do this via Zoom or FaceTime or just a conference call as you're walking through the home, but you want to be able to get the feedback from the client. You know, what are you doing in this room? What are you doing in this room? What's important here? Have you thought about this? So it's always better to have the client on site. If you can't, you can improvise, but you gotta know what they're trying to do. And then I also tell them, hey, we're going to text you when we're on the way. So what I like to do is tell them, you know, my day is very busy. It's scattered. I'm all over the place, and each inspection takes a different amount of time. So I don't know if the first inspection can take an hour or 15 minutes, and we have no idea until we get there. So if it takes an hour, it just bumped everything back. If it takes 15 minutes, maybe bumped it up. So I tell the client, hey, be flexible with your schedule. I'm going to give you a day. And it's almost like getting a delivery from a company or, you know, a service call. They say, hey, we're going to be there in the AM. We're going to be there between, you know, 1 and 5, and we'll text you when we're on the way. So that's the best way to do it. It keeps everybody, you know, flexible, and then you just text them, call them when you're on your way. Makes your life way easier. And then I also like to go over, you know, they're going to get emails from us. We do this on the site too, but when we go to the job site for the first time. But we tell them, if you get emails from us, which you're going to read them, you know, take a look at them. Sometimes it's just, hey, you don't need to do anything. Sometimes it's, hey, we need you to do something. And sometimes it's like, hey, we don't need you to do anything, but here's the next step and here's how it works. So I like to get that out of the way, prep them so they feel good. They know what we're doing. They know what our role is. And we've done this initial phone script, educate them a bit, fill out our cover page, and then we're ready to show up for the site visit.